and welcome to my 5th daily vlog, and today I'm going to be helping out a couple of young filmmakers. Here are some of the tips that will take time, that will make things a little bit more difficult, but they will vastly make your videos a lot better. Yes, you will need to spend a little bit of money to achieve some of these tips, but these can make films look far better than what they actually cost to make. And that's something that you notice in the film industry. It costs a little bit of money and a lot of time to make a really good movie, not necessarily needing to spend a lot of money. Let's talk about lighting. Lighting is really important. Light up your characters and light up the room. Use natural light as much as possible. Open curtains, open windows, doors, whatever you can to give natural light, just to fill the room with a good amount of light. But then to focus on a certain item or a character, try and stick to studio lights or some sort of external light rather than using the lights in your house, because those tend to be yellow and give an ugly tint, and they also tend to not be bright enough for the kind of scenes that you want to be doing indoors. Right now I'm using artificial lighting. The cost for these lights, about $60, really not that expensive. You do need to understand that you shouldn't over light your characters or environments. Don't just chuck every light on at maximum brightness. Try and make sure that you're only using the lights to optimize the look of your characters or things in the room. Don't just think more light is better, because then you go into the issues of oversaturating everything and it just looks bad. If you want to do, say, night scenes, or you want to go for a more dark and gritty look, don't just try and turn off all the lights. You still want to light up your characters and make them look a little bit bright, because that gives information to the camera and that makes your image not look fuzzy. However, if you're doing night scenes, don't just think that you need to turn off all the lights and make it dark, or go outside at night and not bring lights with you, because boy are you wrong. You will not be able to film in the dark without it looking grainy as hell. If you're using a phone or a cheap DSLR, or even my DSLR, it's going to struggle to understand the information that it's seeing at nighttime. So your solution is light up that scene, try and make it not look too artificial, and then use your editing software to just make everything look darker. This way you have the information of your characters and your surroundings, but you have a dark tint on everything, rather than just having everything look really grainy like the camera can't understand what's going on. Now let's talk about movement. Movement is really important. I find that in rookie films, the camera is situated in one point in the room and it just films the same thing for a scene, and then they switch to a new scene. Some people try to mix it up a little bit by moving the camera angles a little bit, but they just don't have much variance. First of all, let's just talk about position. If you can, use a tripod. Definitely use a tripod, and try and use a fluid head. If you want to show the perspective of a young child looking at a scary grown-up, you'll want to have the camera really low and looking upwards. So it's important to either have the cameraman holding the camera low to the ground looking up, or just use a tripod that can be low. So that's where tripods, or just having somebody with stable hands, is really important. Don't just keep the camera at chest or face height. Try and change your heights. Try and go up high looking down, or low looking up. And use tripods to stabilize whenever you can. If you want to move the camera and you want to keep things stabilized, you could get a crane, which can be expensive, about $1,000. Cranes can be quite small but very versatile, but yes, they do start around $500 to $1,000, which is usually going to be out of your budget, so I wouldn't recommend those. However, if you do want to add a little bit of movement and you don't want a person holding it because it's just not stable enough, you can always try using a slider. Now, a slider usually is situated on a table or a tripod, and you prop the camera on this red bit and it just slides along this track. Now you can get ones that are longer or shorter depending on your budget and your needs. This particular one costs $200 and is really high quality. Now what's really good about this one too, unlike a lot of sliders that are more expensive, is the fact that you can bolt on wheels that it comes with. The wheels are really good quality, and you can then slide this across the ground or on top of a bench or desk for as long as you need it to go. You're not limited to the length of the track. Try and use sliders when you want to do moving shots towards a character or away from a character, or if you want to track a character as they're moving. What you may also want to do is hold the camera and do moving shots around the character to show their surroundings, or follow the character as they're walking around a room. You can either walk in front of them and video their face, or you can walk from behind. Either is good depending on what the scene justifies. Even if you're keeping your camera completely stationary and you're not using sliders and you're not having the camera move around as you do a scene, just try and move the camera in different spots in the room and really make it dynamic. Don't overdo it and change the camera angle every single time. When you want to switch between a character, just go from character A to character B, back and forth, and you don't need to move the camera around the room 17 times. Just film from 2 different angles and then have things called B footage. B footage is when you film other things other than the main characters talking or the main action happening. For example, you might show Timothy talking, then you show Lisa talking. Then you go back to Timothy. Then Timothy picks up his phone. You have a shot of the phone on the table and him picking it up. Then you might go to a wider shot that shows Timothy and Lisa in the same room as he's texting on his phone and completely ignoring Lisa. Then she gets angry at him. Then you might show a close-up that's even closer than before of her angry expression. Also, make sure that you have the camera far away from the characters when you do your first shot. This is called an establishing shot. This shows the surroundings and how far away the characters are from each other. For example, if they feel really awkward, you might have the characters positioned far away from each other. Or if they really know each other or are really chatty, or say they're doing something like kissing or exchanging an item, then they're going to be really close together. And you need to establish this. You can't just show one face and then the other face and then them picking up items. You need to show the distance between the characters. Another thing that's really important is post-production. Now, it can be as simple as just plopping in each scene together, but that just looks really ugly. Especially if you have separate camera angles. You're going to have to mix it all together and edit it, cut bits out that you don't like, and just find the potential of the story. Sometimes when you watch it from start to finish, you realize that some things aren't necessary, and sometimes you realize that other things need to then be filmed over again, such as mistakes or entirely new scenes. Of course, if you don't have the time, and if you're also paying your actors, which affects your budget, then you might not be able to redo scenes and you might have to work with what you have. But regardless, you're going to have to edit it. A really important thing with editing is obviously getting everything to time really nicely, having everything really fluid. But I think something that people often forget about is color correction. And this is how you get the feel of the film. Color correction allows you to change the color palettes in the particular clips that you have to best show the emotions and atmosphere in the scene. Say you're on top of an iceberg. Now, you could just have the ice and the water and the people shown in the shot. Yes, it's cold, we get it. Or you could try and mute down some of the colors, add a bit of a blue hue to it, and then you really get the feeling that it's cold. Then if you have a lot of money, then maybe you could add snow via a snow machine or CGI, but that's getting a little bit too advanced for this video. If it's really hot, again, do the opposite thing. Make everything look really reddish or orangish. Try and make that moment more important by affecting the colors. And it's not just as simple as adding hues. You also want to do important things such as making colors look a little bit more vibrant or muted. Perhaps you even want to have a black and white film. Just mix around with what you want. Sometimes it's not about trying to get a feeling. Sometimes it's just trying to make it look more interesting and giving it that filmic look. If you just pop that file in the way it is, I can guarantee it's not going to look like a film. It's just going to look like footage. Films are always color graded, and that's just the way it is. One of the best programs in the industry for color correction is DaVinci Resolve. Get that for free, and it is an amazing resource. You need a really good computer for it to run effectively, but highly professional and really, really good. So if you have a gaming PC, for example, or just a really good PC, get that program downloaded and start color editing. It's going to be difficult, it's a complicated program, but it's something that doesn't cost money and can make your video look so much better. So just do that. Do it. Another thing that's really important is audio. Often you hear audio that just sounds really bad, it's tinny, or you hear a lot of wind. You just need to make sure that you have audio equipment. Now, you don't have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on audio equipment. It can be as simple as buying a $250 Rode Video Mic Pro and slapping it on top of your camera. That's what I do. If you really want to put in the time, you can also fiddle around with settings to make the sound better. I don't do that, but you can if you really want to seem professional without spending extra money. You can buy cheaper mics than the one that I have, of course. Rode make cheaper ones, and there's always other companies that make other mics at cheaper prices, so just look around for a good mic. It doesn't matter if you spend $50 or $100 or $1,000 on audio equipment, just spend something on audio equipment. Don't use a tiny little mic on your phone or on your DSLR. You will need external audio. To summarize everything, make sure your lighting is good and try and keep the light as white as possible. I'm not sure if I mentioned this earlier, but if you don't understand how to get a light that is white, try and read for the code 5500K. It's often advertised on film lights. Don't just use any lights you want. Even if it's cheap, always go for external things. Get external audio, get external lights. You don't need to spend a lot on it, but if it's specific, if it's made for filming, it's just gonna work a lot better than just using any old thing. Of course, if you have no budget whatsoever, just use whatever's available, but it is good to spend just a little bit of money. $1,000 can do wonders to your filming ability, but you do need to put in the time. Editing and post-production kind of elements like color correction, a lot of that is free, but just takes a lot of time and is something important that you need to do to make your films look good. Movement, I've already discussed movement. I don't think there's really much I can summarize or add to that, but just don't move your camera too much, but make sure that everything is dynamic and that you're capturing everything you need to. Don't overdo it, don't underdo it. Don't just stick a camera in a room on one tripod at one height and just... Hello darkness my old... That's all I have. I've talked for too long, I am tired, and I'll see you tomorrow. This didn't quite go as planned.